Everybody knew there would be a blowout in Boston last night. Everybody saw a blowout coming. Everybody saw a blowout coming. Just not at the expense of the Celtics.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
That's right.
I still can't get over this weekend. A lot has happened since I saw you Thursday, before we gave way to Ladies First Friday here on Brother From Another. Between Game 6, the Succession finale, and last night, I don't know where to begin. But we talked about, as this series was shifting and becoming an actual competitive series, whether it was more about what the Celtics were doing or what the Heat were doing, more about Miami, more about Boston. And usually when there's a close series, and that's what a 7-game series is, despite the outcome of Game 7, it was a close series. It was a competitive series. It was a compelling series.
Compelling, yes.
I think there's a definitive answer here. And while we do our postmortems on Boston, and we're going to do that today, we're gonna figure out what's next for the Celtics. Nickels worth of free advice, consultation services, courtesy of Brother From Another, on what the Celtics should do, where they should go from here. How do they get over this proverbial hump? But in the matter of the 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, and the question of whether it was more about Boston's failure or the Heat's success, it is undeniably, unequivocally, unquestionably all about Heat culture, all about the Miami Heat. It doesn't matter what happened to Jayson Tatum on the first possession. It doesn't matter that the Celtics went, 9 for 42 from 3. It doesn't matter whether, as I said after Game 3, and that take didn't age well, but then it turns out I was probably right, that the Celtics collective hearts pump Kool-Aid. All I know is, sorry to be corny, you could change the name of this organization to the Miami Heart. Just add an R, or put an R in parentheses between the A and the T. Because for this team to come from losing the first play-in game, barely winning the second play-in game, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks, they barely beat the Chicago Bulls, and to now be in the NBA Finals as the second 8th seed in NBA history? There was history made last night. There was history made in the Garden, Michael, because while the Celtics did not become the first team to fall into an 0-3 hole and come back and win the series, it's now 151 tries and 151 failures in that regard.
Yep.
What the Miami Heat did was become the first team to take a 3-0 lead, lose that 3-0 lead, lose it in the most excruciating of fashions, courtesy of Derek White, then come back and get off the canvas from that gut punch, come back and win Game 7 on the road. Who comes back from that? Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought that outside of Miami, thought that the Miami Heat would not only win Game 7, but blow out Boston in Game 7 after what had just transpired in the previous 3 games. So for me, Michael, this is less about what Miami avoided, historically speaking, and more about what Miami achieved and accomplished, which was winning Game 7. Because once the Celtics won the previous 3, it was no longer about Miami losing a 3-0 lead. They both had one game to win for their lives.
One game.
One game for their seasons.
Win one game.
It was in Boston, and everybody named Mama in Boston, I ain't got to tell you, you there. Last time we talked, I know you weren't buying into it, but by the time Game 7 rolled around, it was a fait accompli. It was a matter of it was a win, not an if, and it was a win and a how, not an if Boston was going to go to the NBA Finals, and Miami was going to be sent packing, having suffered a collapse that was unprecedented. And yet, here they are, here they stand, the Miami Heat, back in the NBA Finals. To me, man, does Boston have flaws? Yeah, but this is about Miami's strengths more than Boston's weaknesses.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. And, think back to your writing days. Once a writer, always a writer. But think back to your writing days. And I don't know if you looked at it this way. I used to. And I would say, if something, because, as you know, I took a little time to get stories in sometimes. Pushing deadline, missing deadlines. But, yeah, you know that.
Some legendary shit right there, boy.
Yeah, that's right. But
have we ever told people? Wait a minute, hold on. Don't lose your thought.
I think
we've shared a lot.
Go ahead.
Did we?
Well, go ahead.
Just to remind people.
Tell them again.
If there were a record kept for missing deadline, I'm pretty sure Michael Holley has the record, having missed the deadline from the Olympics in Sydney, Australia, with a 24-hour lead. You want to talk about blowing a 3-0 lead? Mike, this dude had a 24-hour head start on an article, on a column, and was late. The desk had to call him in Sydney.
That's amazing.
Hell, I think they might have called me. Like, yo, you heard from Michael? Like, that's hard to do. That's hard to do.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is.
You can be out there in Sydney. You can be out there in Sydney with a 24-hour head start, and the best thing you got is a blank screen. Okay.
Man,
but
unbelievable.
but part of the reason it took me so long to write those articles, because if it came too easily, I would say, is that too much of a cliche? That's not a really original.
Yeah.
That came too easily.
Ooh, I see where you're going. I see where you're going here. I see what you're doing.
Too easily.
I see what you're doing. Keep going, preacher.
But you know what? It's funny when you talk about the Miami Heat, and everybody thought it was going to be a blowout. I'm like, Mike, you just mentioned 150 teams before Boston tried to do this, and Vegas and everybody else predicted history. I mean, that's not how it works. You can't say this has never happened before, but
so this is the time it's going to happen.
Yeah, in Game 4 it started. They were favored in Game 4. They were favored to win in Game 5. They were favored to win Game 6. And history, they're 8-point favorites to 7-point favorites in Game 7. It's not going to be.
But nobody had been at home. But nobody had been at home, though, Michael. That's the only thing about those previous 150.
But still, it's still in basketball and hard. Even if you've got a great team, a historically great team, and a team that's just okay, it's just hard to sweep a team. I know it's been done before, and we've seen it done in our lifetimes, but it's just hard to do that, especially when you've been down 3-0 to come back and win 4 straight. And so, or just to sweep through 4 games. Let's put it that way.
But no, I like what you said, because it kind of would have been effectively a sweep. If you win 4 straight games, I mean, that's almost like a different series and you swept. So no, I get it. I get what you're saying.
And so I think that really tells a story of who Boston is right now and who Miami is. Everything you said about Miami is absolutely right. Miami is, if you need something, if you need to see how it plays with the public, or see how what the authenticity or staying power of a product is, bring in the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are your focus group. If you want to know what you got, put it up against the Miami Heat, and the Heat will bring out the truth of what something is. And that's what that's who they are. They will drain you. They will take away all the pretense, and they will get you down to your
control. They're the control in the experiment. Yeah.
What is this team? Okay, put them up against the Miami Heat. We'll find out. So what was Milwaukee? Not much. Not that much, especially with an injured Giannis out in 5 games. New York, hey, New York, stand up. Not much, out in 6 games against the Miami Heat. And Boston, we saw everything. Miami, we saw all the craziness of Boston. We saw all their personalities. We saw everything of the Boston Celtics, courtesy of the Miami Heat. They are a team that will mess around with the game. That will go down zip 3. They are a team that will look amazing and come back and tie it up at 3. They are a team in Game 6.
They are a team that will be up by 10. They will be up by 10 in Game 6, and then damn near, and then almost lose it, and then win it on a miracle. Yeah, absolutely.
Win it on a tip-in. And then in Game 7, everything's set up. Hey, they're the better team. Jayson Tatum walks in. He's got the beautiful anything is possible jacket on.
Did he already have that, or did he have that specially made in time for Game 7. Do we know what the story is behind that?
He looked good. See, his fashion choices in the series were lovely, but the ironies of his fashion choices, they just kind of, they didn't land the way he wanted them to. He missed at the wrong time. So right before Game 3, he had on an all-white suit. You know, the Miami white party. And that was their worst game in the playoffs. So he's got the white suit on. He's looking very Miami, but at the wrong time. That's Game 3. Game 7, anything is possible. It's supposed to be a message for him and his teammates, and it's a message for the Miami Heat. Anything is possible. First time in 24 years that a number 8 seed has gone to the NBA Finals. So look, props to the Miami Heat. They have done everything. They've done everything that you could ask your team to do, and that's why I like them. I like that Eric Spoelstra always gets the most out of his team.
Right.
He's had one underachiever. He's had one underachieving team. That was the first LeBron, Bosh, Wade team. The first one.
Yeah, but that wasn't even his fault. Because it's like, because when your best player checks out, and I'm not one of those people that hold 2011 against LeBron. I'm not one of those people that do that. But that's a LeBron loss. Okay, that's I don't even count that against Spo. I'm glad you brought up Spo. One of, and look, top 2 and he ain't 2 coaches of this era. Okay. This is the same dude. Speaking of LeBron, and LeBron once bumped on the way to the bench. That once upon a time was like, hey man, might have to get Pat Riley to come back downstairs. And he takes a backseat to nobody in terms of coaching. But you were preaching just now. Can we talk about prophesying, please? Because Jimmy Butler sat there last year and said, this cannot be made enough of. You cannot overstate this. You cannot, this story, sorry, you talking about writing stories? Like, this is your lead. This is your nut graph. And you coming back to this to end the story. This dude got up at a podium and said, we're going to be right here next year in this same situation, and we're going to get it done. Okay? He also said at the end of Game 6, you will keep getting the same test until you pass it. Okay? Eric Spoelstra said at the end of Game 6,
come on.
At the end of Game 6, I wish we could play this right now. Right now, we are going to get this done. They never wavered.
I don't know. How about that, though? He said, I don't know how we're going to get this done, how we're going to get it done. But we will. And that's what the next 48 hours are about. I don't know right now. Hey, you know what, Eric Spoelstra, I know your dad was a basketball man. I think he spent some time in the black church. Boy, that's one of those. That's one of those, I don't know who this is for. But let me say.
Right. But they never blink, they never flinch. You see it in all the games that they've come back from, just in these playoffs, facing deficits or double-digit deficits. It's uncanny the way this team just keeps on coming at you with everything they have.
Mike.
And listen, man, I know Jayson Tatum sprained his ankle. Some people out there are probably affixing an asterisk to Game 7 saying, yeah, but Tatum was compromised. Almost, you can't, because I'm sorry. This had, if Jayson Tatum, and it's easy for me to say, even if Jayson Tatum would have been happy, even if Jayson Tatum would have been healthy, Miami wasn't losing this game. They just weren't losing this game. They were not going to come to Boston. And I know, it's a great story about them only booking the flight to Denver, but they were not coming to Boston and leaving anything other than victorious. You know what? I'm gonna tell you a quick AAU story. The director of our program, Deshaun Hawkins. We had a game 2 weekends ago, and it was the third game of a tournament, and we were in the losers bracket. Like we had lost a game or two the previous day, and we lost a very tough game on that Sunday. And he said to the team afterward, he's like, you know why we lost this game, guys? And people were like, turnovers or intensity. He's like, no. He was like, that team just decided that they were not gonna take a 4-hour bus ride home as losers. That y'all were gonna have to sit with this shit. Y'all were going to be the ones driving home sick to your stomachs. They were not going to be the ones driving home. It was as simple as that. They were not going home to Canada, wherever they were from, losers. And when I see the Miami Heat, I see a team that just was not going to be denied no matter what it took in Game 7. That was a bad break, an unfortunate stroke of luck for the Celtics, but I really don't think the Celtics' problems in Game 7 and in general started and ended with Jayson Tatum's ankle. I think it's bigger than that for them.
No, it is. It's a lot bigger than that. And I'm going to tell you, like, one of the things with the Celtics, and this is the parent in me talking, and you understand where I'm coming from, and a lot of parents do too. They are, like I said, they're gifted and they're self-destructive. And so I think one day they will figure it out. I'm not one of these, break up the Jays people.
I am.
Oh, you got to.
I am.
I'm not.
We'll get to that after the break. We'll get to that.
I know.
Okay.
But that's not the problem. That's not the problem. It's not breaking up. It's not breaking up Jaylen Brown.
It's not breaking up. It's growing up. It's not breaking up. It's growing up.
It's perspective. It's perspective. They have to, and it's the entire organization has to have a different perspective. And I'll say, and we'll get to it later, but like even Joe Mazzulla, I've been very hard on him all year. I think Joe Mazzulla will figure it out too. But Joe Mazzulla is like his team. He's too young, too immature, and doesn't know what he doesn't know. He would be the perfect coach. If we could do a trade right now, if we could do a trade with the Houston Rockets and get your previous coach back, you get Ime Udoka back here. And
that ship might have sailed.
Oh, yeah, it sailed. It sailed. And you'd have to, no, I'm not going to. But you're like Ime for Joe. I think that would help both franchises. Because Joe Mazzulla has a lot to learn, and the team that he coaches has a lot to learn. And they were starting to get it under Ime. They were starting to understand it, and then all hell broke loose in that organization.
But you said they got a lot to learn, Professor.
It's here.
But Professor,
it's here.
You said they got a lot to learn. They on the same chapter. They're on the same chapter.
Right.
I would buy into that if it was like a first round loss or a second round and they were taking these progressive steps. Like this team has been in this moment either in the conference finals or the NBA finals last year, and it's the same shit. It's the same thing.
But listen, I know, yeah, it may be, but I don't know. You just quoted him. Let's go back to the Reverend Dr. Jimmy, not James, Jimmy Butler III. The Reverend Dr. Jimmy Butler said, I believe, this is after Game 6, I believe you'll keep getting the same test. Preach it. Until you pass
Until you pass it.
You'll keep getting the same test until you pass it. So I'm going to take Jimmy's words. The Boston Celtics will be right back here next year. They will. They'll be back here next year. What are you going to do with that opportunity? What are you going to do when you have an opportunity? Are you going to get yourself down zip 3? Are you going to close when you have the ability to close? Are you going to finish with a winning record at home? Over the last 2 years, how about this stat? Blows my mind. Over the last 2 years, they have the worst home playoff record in the history of basketball. Wow. In the last 2 years, the worst home record in the history of the game. So
that's a long.
They have the ability. That is, they have the ability to get there. They also have the ability to screw it up. How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to wrestle with that? Or are you going to make excuses? Or are you going to get over that hump?
Okay.
And I think eventually they'll get over that hump. Eventually.
Okay.
I do.
I disagree. But I'll save that for after the break. And we'll also get more insight from Boston. You want to talk about something that blew your mind. You know what else blew my mind? First city, I beg your pardon. First city. You know, I love Boston. That's why I met my wife. That's where my kids are born. My kids are Celtics fans. First city to ever lose 2 home Game 7s to an 8 seed in 2 sports. Hockey and hoops. Golly.
Hockey.
The struggle is real right now.
Hockey. Yeah.
You working on that column? Are you working on that column right now? Could you get that column in on deadline? the depression of Boston right now.
It'll be in a month. Same losing to the same team from the same city. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.